Hi everyone, and welcome to our first technical tutorial. As I was mentioning in class, most if not all of our technical material is going to be covered in pre-recorded videos as opposed to within the class itself. And I've decided to do that for a few reasons. I think first of all, it's really important for you to be able to cover all of this material kind of at your own pace and in your own time, right? So you can play and pause and stop and reset these videos whenever you feel like. And then I also think it's important to save our class time for conversations and for sharing thoughts about the reading and sharing thoughts about each other's work. I think that leads to a more just a more productive class in general. One thing I wanted to mention about these videos, I highly encourage you to kind of go along with me throughout the tutorials. Most of them are going to be done in Glitch, which I mentioned in class and which we'll walk through in a second. I encourage you to create an account if you haven't already, because that's where we're going to be doing most of our work, and open an editor and code with me, and pause the video whenever you feel like you need to slow down a bit, or you need to like re-go through the code. But yeah, otherwise, I think we can get started. So in class today, we talked about websites in general. We got a little bit of a glimpse into what the website is and how it works. Excuse me. We talked about HTML, and now we're going to go ahead and create very simple websites and look at a few HTML tags. As I was mentioning in class, there's about 90 HTML tags in total. Out of those, we really only need to know about 10 or 15, and I think today we're going to be covering close to 10. So we're covering a lot of ground. If you don't have a Glitch account yet, go ahead and make one. This is what the interface looks like once you've logged in. You can see a manage your projects dashboard, and you can see all of your projects below. You're probably not going to have any just yet, but yeah, let's go ahead and create a new project. And they're offering a few templates. We're going to choose the classic website one. We're just working with static websites, and they're going to show us the coding interface once the project loads. All right, there we go. So now we have the Glitch editor interface, and we can see in the top left corner there's a randomly assigned name for our project. We can change this name. I'm actually going to change it right now to Programming the Net 1. You can change the description in here, Programming the Net HTML tutorial number 1. And there's a few other actions you can do in here, such as changing the theme. You'll see that the app refreshes when you make changes in the code. You can disable that. You can look at keyboard shortcuts. Feel free to explore this menu for customization. And then you're going to see on the left side there's a file, kind of a file browser, a file manager like you would have in your file system. And in here we have a README file, which is just a description of what Glitch has set up for us. We have an index.html file, which we can see is already populated with some code, and we'll take a look at that in a second. Then we have a script.js and script.style.css files. I'm going to go ahead and remove both of these. We're not going to need them for at least a couple of sessions, and I encourage you to do the same. We're just going to be working with the HTML file. You can remove the README if you want as well. We don't really need that, but if you want to keep it for reference, feel free to do so. .env I'm also going to remove. We're going to cover that at a later session. And assets is a folder, and we're going to get to how to use that once we get into using media, such as images, audio, or video. So now we're left with our index.html file. I'm going to delete all of these contents because we want to make our own HTML file from scratch. Before I do that though, I just want to show you how we can preview the contents of this website. In the top left side of the interface, you can see the Show button. If you click here, you have two options, in a new window or next to the code. I'm going to open it in a new window at first, and you can just see it's a very, very simple web page. It lives at the URL ptn-1.glitch.me, right? ptn1 is the title we gave our project in the top left corner, and anybody can access this URL, right? So this is how we're going to be sharing our work with each other. And this is kind of the main reason why I chose to use Glitch for this class as opposed to working on HTML pages on our computer, just because their interface makes it super easy to send your work to other people, to make the code visible to other people. It's just a really good tool for collaboration when it comes to building websites. All right, let's revisit the second option. So there's the second one I was mentioning, which is show next to the code. And this is how we're going to be doing most of our live coding. It's just a really convenient interface which shows us the HTML page right by the code. So I'm going to remove everything, and you can see the content disappearing, so it updates live. And we're really going to start from scratch in building our first HTML page. And the first thing that we need to add to our HTML file is this little header called doctype HTML. Doctype HTML. This is it's a declaration. It's not an HTML tag, but it's something that needs to be that needs to exist at the beginning of any HTML file, and is just an indicator for the browser that this is indeed an HTML file. I think most of the times a page will work even if this is missing, but I think it's good practice to add it. All right, so once we're done with that, we can start with our regular tags. And the highest level tag that we need to use in any HTML page is the HTML tag. And we see that Glitch has this really nice autocomplete feature, which once we open a tag, it automatically closes it from us. It's very nice of them. And the HTML tag is really the container for our entire web page. Nothing except for this doctype declaration will ever leave outside of the HTML tag. Now, there's going to be two other important tags that are, again, very high level. The first one is the head tag, and the second one is the body tag. Right, so we see our page is still empty. It's not showing anything. And that's because we haven't added anything to the body. Maybe you remember from class that things declared inside of the head are generally properties of the page. It's how we give the page a title, it's how we give it a description, it's how we tell it to use certain style files or certain JavaScript scripts, and bodies where the content is going. For the purpose of this example, I'm going to just give our page a title. So I'm going to use the title tag, and let's just call it Programming the Net #1 HTML basics. Okay, great. So we're not able to see anything in the on the right side just yet, but if I open our page in a new window, you will see the title updating in the tab, right? So Programming the Net #1 HTML basics. I think this is all I'm going to cover for now in terms of the head. We're going to get to styles and scripts in one or two sessions once we get to cover CSS and JavaScript. In terms of the body, things can be quite simple. We can just start typing in here, and the text is going to show up in our page. So if I just type "this is a piece of text," it's going to show up. It's going to show up on our page, right? And this doesn't have any kind of styling. It's just using the default font and the default font size and all of that. But creating a website can be as simple as this. However, in terms of working with text, often we want to kind of present information in different ways, right? Like maybe for a title, we want a larger type size. For something that's not as important, we want a small type size. And HTML offers a few different kinds of tags for classifying text. And one of the most important ones that's used for the body of text is the p tag. Right, P stands for paragraph. And I'm just going to type here, this is a paragraph. All right, you can type tags on multiple lines if you want. You can have them on the same line if you want. It doesn't really make a difference as long as the opening and the closing exist. One thing I forgot to mention, every tag has an open tag and a close tag, right? In the opening, you have the name of the element surrounded by two brackets, the lower than sign and the larger than sign. And the closing tag is the same except that it has a slash before the name of the element that we're using. I'm going to copy this text and paste it here just to show you one other thing. So you see, even though our text is on two different lines in here, inside of our page it shows up as a single line, right? So no matter how many new lines we have in here, the text will show on the same line. However, one of the things that the paragraph is doing for us is inserting new lines, like kind of wrapping the text inside of new lines, and it also adds a little bit of spacing before the text and after the text, right? So if we had a piece of text in between our paragraphs and another one, yeah, the paragraph tag added our new lines and some spacing. Okay, let's clean this up a little bit and move on to our next tags. Right, so again, the paragraph tag is used mostly for bodies of text. When it comes to titles, HTML is offering us a few different options for headings. And this is sort of similar to styling titles inside of Microsoft Word or any other kind of text editor. We have headings 1 through 6. And we can do a heading 1. This is a heading 1. Right, so you see the font size is much larger now, and it's also, the text is also bolded. I'm just going to copy and paste this and turn it into a heading 2. All right, so the other thing to notice about the glitch interface, if you have an error, and in our case, it's the fact that we have an open h2 tag, but the closing tag is an h1, glitch is telling us that there is an error, right? So it's showing us the red bubble on the left side of the line and also a small underline by the closing tag, and it's telling us that the tag must be paired and that there is no start tag for our closing h1 tag. So I'm just going to change it to h2. So just know that if there are any red dots in there, you need to check your tags or potentially other issues with the page. All right, so you can see the heading 2 is also bolded but has a smaller size than heading 1, and it's kind of the same deal for all of them. I'm just going to change them into heading 3, 4. You can see already that heading 4 is starting to become smaller, or maybe the same size as the regular text, and heading 5 and 6 are smaller. Oops, this is heading 5 and then 6. Right, and the text is still bolded. We're going to learn in probably next week how to change the default styling for these headings. The one thing to keep in mind is the fact that text can be highlighted by having simply a different size and a different weight from the regular paragraph text, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be larger. All right, so these are the main tags related to text in HTML: the paragraph and the six headings. And there's also a few tags that help us do bold and italics. So we can use the strong tag. If we want bold, this is bold text. Right, and the bolded text looks an awful lot like the heading 4 in this default example, and that's just because the heading 4 is the same typeface. And then there's the italic tag, which is EM. This is italic text. All right, and you see that our bold and italic text show up on the same line. If we wanted them to show up on different lines, we would have to turn each one of them into a paragraph. And the way to do that is by enclosing each one of them inside of a p tag, right? So we can say start the paragraph here and move our strong tag inside of the paragraph. And let's say that for the italic text, we want to make it large. Let's turn it into a heading 2. So I'm just going to type our heading 2 tag in here and paste our italic text inside of the heading 2. All right, so far so good. The other thing that I should mention, notice that I'm using what's called indentation, which is the spacing on the line before each tag. Glitch kind of assists you with that, but I think it's good practice in general to indent inwards every time you nest tags inside of other tags, right? So P is right under body and is on the same column as all other P's, and everything that goes inside of this tag goes a little bit to the right. And this is just good from a visual point of view in terms of looking at the code and understanding its structure without having to really go into details. Great. And a few more tags before we wrap up. Two that I wanted to show you that are related to spacing. There's the BR tag. And the BR tag, it doesn't show up right now because it's just it's a line break, right? So if we had, this is before the line break, a piece of text. And then we had a BR after it, and then this is after the line break. Right, we see that the second piece of text shows up on a new line, right? If we remove this BR, the second piece of text would show on the same line. So in some sense, this is equivalent to using a paragraph tag. However, the paragraph tag, as we will learn later, can be styled. The line break is simply a line break. The other tag that's very similar to the line break is the HR tag, which is a horizontal rule, is what HR stands for. And it's just a horizontal line that that shows up. Okay, let me do another. Maybe let's do 2 line breaks here between our 2 pieces of text. Let's do 3. Right, so we see the spacing in here increasing. The HR is just a line that's splitting the two pieces of text, and this can be used as a delimiter between different sections. It can also be styled. The color can be changed, the size can be changed, the width can be changed, but we're going to deal with that in a future video. And the last thing that I wanted to show here is the small tag. And the small tag really is just used for reducing the font size. All right, yeah, I think that's about it in terms of this tutorial, right? So we've covered setting up the basic structure of the web page using the HTML head and body tags. We've looked into the title tag, which lives inside of the head for giving our page a title inside of the browser window. And we've looked at a few tags that deal with typography, the paragraph tag, the 6 headings, the strong and EM tags, which are bold and italic, and then line breaks and the small tag. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and I can't wait to see you in class next week. Thank you.